Thank you. My husband lying next to me suddenly mumbled this. Is he thanking me for something? You're welcome? I replied, but he just continued to sleep soundly. However, the next words he mumbled in his sleep made up my mind. I'm going to divorce him. It's just hopeless. I felt a profound disappointment in my husband. My name is Eleanor. I'm 52 years old this year. I work at an LP gas sales company located in town. My husband runs the company, and I'm in charge of accounting. My husband, Polly, is 56 this year. He's been going to the hospital since he was young because of asthma. Today, I heard him coughing softly again. He seems a bit under the weather, and I'm worried. Then there was a click, and the company's door opened. Good work today. It's our son Morris, who works for the same company. I feel blessed to work with my family. It seems hot outside. He's wiping the sweat from his cheeks with a handkerchief. Then, with a creaking sound, he sat down in a chair. Polly then stood up, taking his jacket from the back of the chair. Well, I'm off too. He headed for the door, slipping his arms into the sleeves of his jacket. Is he going out again today? I wish he wouldn't push himself too hard. Lately, he's been going out more for sales calls. Since we have few salespeople, Polly has been going out as a salesman. I remember him sighing about it at dinner once. Polly staring at company documents without eating dinner. Further, he frowned, deep in thought. Oh, what's with the long face? I couldn't help but ask, putting down my utensils. He seemed very troubled. Then he let out a deep sigh. We don't have enough salespeople. Is Polly going to handle sales too? I'm worried about his illness. I feel uneasy. Should we recruit new employees? I suggested, but he shook his head. He doesn't seem keen on the idea. It would cost too much. It's impossible. Saying that, Polly sighed again. Knowing the situation, I feel torn. Take care, watching Polly's retreating figure. Then one day something happened. I discovered something outrageous. It was when I was checking the pockets before doing laundry. There's something in here. I felt the texture of paper on my fingertips. A business card, perhaps? Or maybe a note. I pulled the paper out of the pocket. Then, an unexpected sentence jumped into my eyes. Today was delicious. It's nice to have lunch outside sometimes. It was written in cute round letters. Today was delicious. Sometimes. Outside for lunch. And that final heart? What is this? Suddenly my mind went blank. Could this be what happens in those soap operas? Infidelity? The word loomed large in my mind. I suppressed the urge to escape from reality. I stared at the many letter. It said today was delicious. But my husband should have had lunch at a cheap fast food place nearby. I once asked him if I should make him a lunchbox. It's tough to make lunch every day. Don't worry about it. That's what my husband told me. I felt guilty at those words. My husband has a chronic illness, so I'm worried about his health. But the truth is, balancing work and household chores made it hard to find time to prepare lunch. I remember feeling relieved when he told me not to worry about it. I assumed he was eating lunch at a fast food place. Was he lying to me? Having lunch at his lover's house every day? Who wrote this letter? Was my husband the kind of man who would cheat? Why did he cheat in the first place? Since when? The more I thought about it, the more questions arose, and my heart filled with anger and sadness. I need to find evidence. This isn't right. I can't just sit here and worry, I encouraged myself. Then, to get to the heart of the infidelity, I started to act. First, I decided to check things out using a GPS app. I sneakily grabbed Polly's mobile phone while he was in the bath. I had never touched someone else's phone without permission before. Is this really okay? I felt guilty. But I had to do it. I told myself. Polly only uses his phone for SMS and news sites. He's not familiar with apps. This was convenient for me. And somehow I successfully installed the GPS app. I wiped the faint sweat from my forehead with my sleeve. I was a bit nervous. I'm not used to doing things like this. This should do it. Now I'll know where he's going. I should be able to find evidence. I want to know the truth, but I don't want to know. I realized my heart was still wavering between these conflicting feelings. The next day during lunch break, I quickly opened the GPS app on my mobile phone. Looking at Polly's address, my eyes widened. It was Polly's house, who used to work part-time at our company. I've always admired office work. I remember her saying that with a sparkling smile. She was a bright and energetic girl. That was my first impression. After an interview, she was hired for part-time work to help with office tasks. But after about a year, she quit. She said office work was too much for her, and she went back to her previous job as a hostess. My heart fluttered at the unexpected connection. Afterward, Polly stayed at Polly's house for about 4 hours. He returned to the office around 5 p.m. I glanced at Polly. He headed to his seat, acting as if he knew nothing, and sat down. Good work. Where were you for sales today? I asked. He must feel guilty about lying. He spoke quickly, seemingly a bit flustered. I said, pretending not to care. Polly quickly looked away, turning to his computer. He was at Polly's house just a while ago, not working. What's going on? I could feel a whirlpool of suspicion spreading in my heart. Then sometime later, one night, "Thank you." Polly, lying next to me, suddenly mumbled that. I thought he was already asleep, so I was a bit surprised. Is he thanking me for something? You're welcome? I replied, but Polly just continued to sleep soundly. Oh, it's just sleep talk. Somehow it's cute. I found myself thinking that unwillingly. The tension that had been building recently snapped, and holding back a rising laugh, I closed my eyes to fall back asleep, but the words Polly continued to say left me speechless. Thank you. It's good medicine. Polly's hug's the best medicine for me. With those words, my mind was made up. I would divorce my husband. It's truly hopeless. I felt a profound and deep disappointment in Polly. Was he dreaming about his mistress, Polly? Even in his sleep? I haven't hugged my husband once in the past few years. That fact only fueled my emptiness. The next morning, I decided to consult with our son, Morris. I have something to talk about. Is now a good time? I said, and he looked up a little surprised. I felt a slight resistance to discussing marital problems with our son, but it was also true that I wanted someone to talk to. After I finished telling him everything, Morris, who had been nodding occasionally, began to speak in bits and pieces. He seemed to have been dissatisfied with Polly's constant slacking off at work, poor sales performance, and overbearing attitude. Mom, it's okay if you divorce Dad. How did it come to this? A heavy, funeral-like atmosphere hung between us. Sometime later, on a particular day, I was headed to the grocery store to buy a drink. You dropped this. I was called and turned around. There stood a very handsome man. I was captivated by his beauty. Looking at his hand, it seemed he was holding a handkerchief. I'm sorry, it doesn't seem to be mine. He looked a little disappointed. As I was about to leave, he stopped me again. I think this might be fate. If you would like, would you like to chat at the cafe over there? I'm in a hurry right now, I'm sorry. Is this some kind of new scam? I'm not in the mood for this. After that, I had a few more encounters with him. But with my mind full of thoughts about the divorce and the future of the company, I didn't have time for him. I'm off. Take care. A few hours after I calmly saw him off, the incident happened. It should be here. The $10,000 that was supposed to be in the company's safe was gone. Cold sweat ran down my back. Polly was away on a 2-night, 3-day business trip for an MPGA meeting. I have to call my husband, I thought, frantically grabbing my mobile phone. I calmed my trembling hand and dialed. After a few rings, I heard my husband's voice. Hello? Calm down, I told myself. I have to talk calmly. I informed Polly about the missing money and discussed filing a theft report. Then Polly began to explain in a nonchalant tone. He had borrowed the money for the trip. He didn't have time to go to the bank. He would return it to the safe when he got back. I was surprised by Polly's matter-of-fact explanation, but it seemed it wasn't a thief's doing. I was filled with relief. I sat down on the spot, still holding the mobile phone to my ear. After hanging up, I impulsively opened the GPS app. What? I understood what it meant to be left with one's mouth agape. Polly was not on his business trip, but at Polly's house. I could never forgive this. I felt a burning anger. The next day, I took immediate action. While Polly was away, I changed all the company's key codes and the locks on our house. With this, that man can't enter the company or the house. He might as well enjoy one more day. Unaware of my sarcastic thoughts, Polly spent a happy time at Polly's house. Then, the next day, Morris and I, along with a lawyer, were in front of Polly's house. Our plan was this. First, Polly would pretend to return from a business trip and go home. But since I had changed the locks, he wouldn't be able to get in. Then he would go to the company, but he wouldn't be able to enter there either. Polly would be at a loss, give up, and return to Polly's house, and that's when we would catch him red-handed. We waited for a while. Several calls came to my mobile phone, but I ignored them all. And just as we planned, Polly arrived. He looked downcast. When Polly arrived in front of Polly's house, he opened his eyes wide in surprise. It's no wonder he was shocked. I forcefully pushed Polly's back and made him stand in front of the intercom. Polly, seeing Polly's face through the intercom, would open the door. With the sound of the doorbell, we heard the rustling inside. The metallic sound of the lock opening echoed. Did you forget something? The door opened slowly. I pushed Polly aside and grabbed the edge of the door. My eyes met with Polly's, who looked surprised. But there was no time for leisurely conversation. We forced our way into Polly's house. What on earth is going on? The temperature in the quiet room rose. He seemed to be gradually understanding the situation. I could see his face turning pale. It's too late for that expression now. My heart was tightly squeezed. We sat the two of them, with their astonished expressions, in the living room chairs. Facing the two of them, I felt a directionless anger. What was our married life all about? Suppressing my feelings of cornering the culprits, I asked for the return of the $1 million from the safe, but we were dumbfounded by their explanation. Polly and Polly seemed to have hatched a plan. Polly, listen to me. I want to drive my wife out of the company and make you the president's wife. Polly was very pleased with this, he said. Then they planned how Polly could use the divorce to his advantage. How about this strategy? Polly's proposal with a defiant smile was to have a handsome man seduce me and make me commit adultery. At such an explanation, my anger turned to sorrow, and my heart was filled with grief. They had spent the money to hire the man, and now it was gone. That's how they ended their explanation. A silence followed, and a prickly atmosphere filled the room. Cutting through the heavy air, I raised my voice. It was what they had originally wanted. I want a divorce. Their faces shot up. I continued, as if to deliver the final blow to the two of them. Please pay the compensation as well. After that, things moved quickly. The president was dismissed for embezzling company funds. He was fired. You might wonder what happened to the LP gas company and the house. They were originally my father's. I had taken them over. Therefore, it was easy to kick Polly, who had been acting as president, out. Afterward, Polly, having lost both his job and home, seems to be living a parasitic life with Polly. After that, he seemed to have started working as a janitor in a building. In the midst of the busy passing time, I sometimes thought of Polly. On a whim, I opened the GPS app and saw him in an unfamiliar place. When I looked it up, the name of the building I didn't know appeared. I hope he's not overdoing it, being sick. A habit I've had since worrying about him long ago. A feeling of nostalgia and loneliness suddenly welled up. The wind rustled my hair. I took a deep breath. That man who betrayed me so terribly doesn't matter anymore. Those words unconsciously slipped from my mouth. As I said them, I was filled with a refreshing feeling. I don't care anymore. With that momentum, I uninstalled the app. Morris took over as president. I know things might be tough at times, but I'm counting on you from now on. Likewise, Mom. Can I talk to you about something? Morris's expression seemed to shine brightly as he spoke. After a while, Morris ventured into condominium and apartment management. It was to secure a delivery destination for LP Gas. I forgot something and went back to the company, where I found Morris working on something. Oh, you're still here? Ah, I was just missing something. He seemed to be working on some documents. Morris is challenging a new business now. I really think he's been doing well lately. Watching him, I feel like I need to work harder too. I feel so. I'll study more about management and make the company one that can return profits to the community. Light began to shine into the dark future ahead. Let's do our best. Yes. Our voices were filled with hope.